As I sat there this morning, it was one of those occasions that I honestly wish this was being broadcast live to many various audiences throughout Trinidad and Tobago. The messages that have come out here this morning are multiple and extremely important to every organization in Trinidad and Tobago and elsewhere in the world, but today my focus is on here, on home. Asset integrity management. It is something that touches every single life if you're going to be responsible. As you sit there and you listen, asset integrity management, if you're a responsible individual, is something you're going to be applying at your home, at the household level, with your motor vehicle, with your bicycle, with anything that you should be responsible for across a very, very wide spectrum. And it is something, unfortunately, that simply isn't being taken serious enough. The energy sector in Trinidad and Tobago is a very dynamic and diverse one. We have been in this business in the oil for over a century. So think about assets that have been around for that length of time. In the gas industry, as I sat there thinking with Mark, trying to recall exactly what year the National Gas Company came into existence, 1975, same year I was born, 48 years ago. Think about the assets that have been around for that period of time. Think about the pressure that those assets have been put under. But this message applies to everything. I wish this morning I had the Chief of Defense Staff here, the head of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the person in the government who is in charge of maintaining buildings on behalf of the government. Because you see, respectfully, we have a problem with proper maintenance in Trinidad and Tobago. And that is something that needs to be addressed. At the beginning of the presentation, I was very impressed with the sustainability messaging and the video that was played. And I'm looking around the room to see the gentleman, and I'm not seeing him. Okay, he's there in the back. Send that video immediately after to the members of the media for them to broadcast that in Trinidad and Tobago. Because you see, the simple message of that video is we are globally dealing with climate change, and it shows you literally the rising sea levels. That is not only happening in Trinidad and Tobago. It's very easy to scream at the government, to blame the minister. I smiled when Mr. Perry said, I call upon the Minister of Energy to make sure that people are doing, I'm paraphrasing, to make sure that people are doing what they are supposed to. And he gave a statistic that out of 30 companies that were initially audited, only one retained DNV. And that's who we're here today to deal with, the National Gas Company and the group. Now, Mr. Perry, I'm hoping that that is because you have competitors in the industry and the other 29 have gone to your competitors. But let's take a bet on it. People, I want to congratulate the National Gas Company Group for what they've done. Because what they've done here and demonstrated to us, and hopefully it will be appropriately and fairly carried by the media, because it's an important message, is in a very short time frame, from 2017 to now, 5 going on 6 years, they turned it around. So in other words, you got the report of what needed to be done, and you implemented it, because that's another problem that we have. So Mr. Perry, I can assure you, sir, that wherever I sit, you're constantly thinking. It is not only about asset integrity management, but asking for certain things to be done. And very often, unfortunately, those things are not done and they're not carried out. But I'm happy to be here today to hear that the National Gas Company, with a 1,000-kilometer pipeline running throughout, not only offshore, but very many areas in Trinidad and Tobago, just a few feet from here. And you're happy to know that work was done, Lisa, when the story was being told, if I remember correctly, is within the last 12 or 18 months. And they came to me in wearing a different hat as the Member of Parliament for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, along with the Member of Parliament for Port of Spain South and the 2 members of Parliament for Laventille East Mover and Laventille West. And NGC told us we're going to shut down Ryson Road because we need to repair a pipeline. Mr. Perry, I wasn't thinking about you and the Hyatt. I was thinking about a lot more than that. But it shows the commitment that the group has to maintaining assets even in difficult circumstances, and everyone has to be doing that. I'm happy to see other participants in our energy value chain here this morning. And I have a sense of comfort, knowing to some extent that many of you have to carry out this type of work that is being done. And many of you will also wake up at all hours of the morning worrying about the asset integrities and what's going on your offshore pipelines, your offshore platforms, your onshore, etc. It's an important message that was carried here this morning. And I think the value of the work that has been done, efficiently done, implemented, while so many other things are taking place, should be applauded this morning. So I applaud the NGC group under the current leadership and the specific team that carried it out. To you, the members of the audience, who are privileged enough to be here this morning, carry the messaging out there to your various organizations and your environments. Because in the energy sector, this is something critical that needs to be carried out. So I look forward to reading the 2022 report. The 2015 was before my time. I'm told it's that big, but it will be gone through. Because this is critical, not only for our local community environments, but also for the continued high end of leadership that Trinidad and Tobago plays in the energy sector globally. So continue doing the good work that you're doing and continue progressing. This is only one part of it. As I sat there, I'm asking Mark about all the other wheels that we have moving. We are a mature province. No matter how they try to avoid that reality, when you think about mining and exploiting oil for 100 years and the use of gas in an environment where you're commercializing the gas for decades, you are a mature province. When you pull it up out of the ground, there's nothing coming in to replace it. This is also a message that should be given to the other state enterprises. You could see it applying to WASA, to TNTech. We've had our challenges in the electricity sector as well, power generation. And these are where the critical items all come back to. Are you properly maintaining your assets? Are you doing what needs to be done? Do you have a maintenance schedule? Are you being proactive and predicting, okay, well, I should really look after this piece of equipment or change this pipeline before something happens? So let that sink in, that this is yet another positive milestone for the National Gas Company and for the group. I'm glad to see you all are competing with each other, PPGPL, NGC, NE, and then Labidco pulling itself up as well. Be the beacon and be that star performer for the rest of us to aspire to. And to the others who are there, let's lift ourselves up as well. But this today is a positive day, and there's a lot of positive messaging that has come out. But as was said, and needs to be appreciated, as you said, you don't rest on your laurels. It continues. So I look forward to the leadership continuing to do what it is doing. You have our full support at the government level. I certainly, as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, appreciate all that you do in the very difficult circumstances that we're in. Because you see, people don't realize how difficult it is when you're swimming against a tide coming at you. And when you're sitting there with the greatest of respect to the multinationals in the room and the other petchem players and to everybody in the sector across that whole value chain, that's another slide. I was actually thinking on Sunday that should have been put up for Trinidad and Tobago to understand. Because you see, certain persons wouldn't carry the reality of what a value chain is. You have upstreamers who pull and exploit the resources out of the ground. They send it to only one of two places, National Gas Company, NGC, as the national aggregator of gas, or to Atlantic LNG to produce LNG. NGC then has to supply and sell that gas to downstream, to the petchems, ammonia, methanol, urea, but first priority, based on government policy, to power generation. So if you have 10 coming from here, which is upstream, and you need 10 in the middle, 5 and 5, let's say, and the upstream drops to 5, the math simply does not math, no matter how you try to sell it. And that is the reality of what you will deal with at very many different periods in time. So continue doing what you're doing as we all work together. It gives me great pleasure to see some of our upstreamers here this morning, our petchem, downstream, our head of the energy chamber and others, because there is no longer any room for siloing in the energy sector. We're all pulling together and working in the same direction, which is to uplift Trinidad and Tobago, so that wherever we go in the world, we can stand proud and say that we are at the head of the food chain in the energy sector, doing things that haven't been done in other areas. And fortunately, in this instance, we've heard today, doing what needs to be done to maintain a safe and reliable asset structure at the NGC group. So keep it up, continue to do the good work, and you have our full support as the civic-minded and right-thinking citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. So NGC, well done to the group, Ramesh, to you and your team. And it always pleases me to walk into a room and see so many young people who are up and coming and who are going to take us forward, because the journey certainly isn't going to stop anytime soon. So keep it up. DAX, I ask that the Energy Chamber, let's work together to make sure that this type of work is going on in the rest of the sector, and NGC share the information and the way it was done and how it should be done, because we all have asset integrity issues, wherever it may be. So well done, and thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. And I look forward to the continuation of this journey as we continue to uplift Trinidad and Tobago and to stay at top of the class. Thank you.